Hi guys, it's my third and final video for tonight. I just wanted a quick run through now really to sort of give you a quick overview of the process that we went through, the time scales, and think of any questions that we were thinking of at the time at the beginning of the cycle that might help a few of you that are about to start this cycle. So we are being treated in King's College, and we actually was referred from September to our local hospital, which referred us to King's. Our first appointment was in November. Our first appointment was a scan and a blood test to show the hormone levels and to check out my lining, check how many cysts were on my ovaries. I think we were looking at about 23 to 24 cysts on each side. We spoke to a doctor who said she'd previously had a read through my file and believed IVF would be the most successful route for Jake and I, and informed us that we would be going on to an injection called gonal F. From that, she sat us down, explained that it is going to be quite a stressful journey for us. We would be doing a lot of visits to the hospital. I would be required to do 2 injections, which were always going to be in the evening, and also to have scans and bloods along the way. So from that, we then went on to see a nurse who said that she'd received the prescription from the doctor, and she explained to us that we were going to go on to 2 injections. One is called gonal F. Now, gonal F is a hormone injection, which increases the hormones in your body. And there was another injection called cetrotide, and cetrotide builds up the lining in your womb ready for embryo transfer. Gonal F is stored in the fridge, so upon receipt you do have to put it into the fridge straight away. But cetrotide can sit outside with your tablets. I just kept it in the storage box it got delivered in and just kept it tucked away in my bedroom. They also provided us with a sharps bin, so you could put your used needles into a plastic bag, a plastic box, which also had like a zippy bag that went round it, so nobody was going to sort of slip up on a fallen needle or something like that. So from that, they asked Jake and I when one of us would be home. I think back then I had a day's holiday booked on that Friday, and Stalk delivered the parcels. Now, they were massive boxes, 2 big boxes. They were huge, and at first I thought, is this right? What have we got delivered? But I realised that there was a lot of huge ice packs in the boxes to keep the gonal F, and I think it was I can't remember. It begins with O. There's a trigger injection as well that they gave you for a fresh cycle that also goes in the fridge. We then had an appointment following week to confirm we'd received all the medication, that we'd stored them appropriately. And at that point, I was told the dates I would start taking our medication. Now, the tablets we had been given in the medication box were some pessaries, which I haven't touched yet because we haven't had our embryo transfer. Also, I'm looking at the box if you're wondering what I'm looking over. We also had a pill that induced a bleed for 7 days, and I also was given a contraceptive pill for 21 days. We left that appointment, and I believe it was the following day they said I could start taking the tablet to induce the bleed. So I took that for 7 days, which 2 days afterwards did start a bleed. At that point, I then started the contraceptive pill. I was on the contraceptive pill for 20 days, but they give me a supply of 21. Towards the end of being on the pill, I think about day 15, I had to ring the hospital to say I'm on day 15 of the contraceptive pill. And they asked me to come in the following day to have a scan done on my ovaries and my womb, and to also have a blood test just to see how my hormones were sitting at the time. We did that, and I then got told to come off the pill on day 20. and about 2 days after that, again, I induced another bleed. And on my first day of my period, I started my gonal F injection, which was at 100 milligrams. Now, most people do generally start the injections and are on them for about 10 days. I previously mentioned a friend of mine was doing her cycle the same time as us. She actually was like clockwork and stopped her injections on day 10. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case for Jake and I, so I had to start injecting, and I carried on till day 25. We weren't allowed to go on for any longer, and if we hadn't had the positive outcome that we ended up with, they would have cancelled my cycle and asked me to have a break and then start again on cycle 2. During the process of injecting, I was injecting at 9 o'clock every night, and I was injecting the gonal F on one side of my stomach and then cetrotide on the other side of my stomach. And I was going into King's College Hospital, and Jake was coming with me every other day for an internal scan and a blood test. We wasn't responding on the gonal F, so my dose did increase by 12.5 milligrams. And then they upped it again by 37.5 milligrams. And in the end, they then did a last minute dose of a 75 milligram boost. So by the end of it, I was actually on 225 milligrams. We were told that by day 20, our cycle could be cancelled. It was a really hard time for me because I was sitting in the room, and actually the nurse who Jake and I had grown quite fond of, she'd come in, and she was always a smiley, really supportive. You know, there was never any issue for her, and she knows how desperately we want this, and she had the real hard task of telling us that we could possibly be ending our cycle that day. I went into work. At that point, I was also instructed, don't give up, maybe try and increase some protein and some calcium into my diet. They did think I hadn't had enough. And my lovely friend at work, who has helped me along the way, her first question was, how are things? And the next thing, she had flown down to Tesco's, and I had a carton of milkshake and cooked chicken sitting on my desk, and was told to start eating away. So I would say for any of you guys that are beginning your IVF cycle, do make sure you've got a high protein and high calcium intake into your diet. I really do think this could have been part of the reason that my IVF did turn around and respond well to the increase of the gonal F. Who knows, but it is definitely worth the crack for the sake of eating a bit more cooked chicken during the day, or having that glass of milkshake when you'd normally have your cup of tea that you can't have because you shouldn't be having caffeine. And I believe it made a difference. I did cut caffeine out of my diet. I had a thing, I've got to be honest, it's so bizarre, and I've tried looking it up, and I have read a few things where I had almost like a craving for citrus stuff. So I was eating tangerines, easy peelers all the time, and drinking orange squash. I do like an orange squash, and I will have like a glass a day at work. But people at work couldn't believe the bottles of squash I was going through and the easy peelers I was going through. So I had something about, I don't know if there is a link to the hormones in your body which maybe cause cravings when you're pregnant. But anything orange, I was all over it. So that was it. On the day I came in, I think it was day 22, I went back in for a scan and a blood test. At that point, they did tell me I was ready to have a trigger, but we were told the bad news at that point that I was at a high risk of overstimulating once the egg collection had happened, and for that reason, they had decided that I would go for a frozen embryo transfer. I believe the trigger injection is not as harsh as the fresh one that we have still stored in our fridge. And also it gives your body time to rest. In hindsight, looking back now, I'm here 2 months later, I am grateful for that decision. But at the time, I didn't take it well at all, and almost felt like, what was the point of having the egg collection? Your mind goes into overdrive. You think, oh, frozen embryo, they're going to kill my embryos. Actually, nowadays, you do find out that the success rate of embryo transfers being fresh or frozen are near enough similar. So their freezing techniques are very advanced nowadays, and they don't cause damage to the embryos. And you do have to believe in your doctors, and I really truly do believe that if any of my embryos do fail to thaw, they were probably never going to take in a fresh cycle. They were never going to be strong enough. So that's the case of where we were at with our cycle. I would recommend that you take multivitamins. We took a multivitamin with folic acid, like a prenatal one. I used just it was Tesco, sorry, just a Tesco prenatal multivitamin. Being a PCOS patient, I also was advised to remain on metformins to help control the cysts. So I was on 500 milligrams of that twice a day. And I was also drinking lots and lots of water. I do like a Diet Coke, so that did have to stop. So in a way, having my two-month break has been quite nice to be able to, if I want a Diet Coke, I will treat myself to one. So it's been the hardest cycle and the hardest roller coaster we've ever been through, and I wouldn't change it for the world. But nothing prepares you for the emotions and I don't understand the frame of mind. It's really hard to put into words. It really is. Nothing will prepare you for your mental state as such, but the positive of it all is you will find strength that you never thought you had. I was really amazed how I took my embryo transfer. Sorry, I keep saying embryo transfer, my egg collection. I took it so well. I was meant to be sedated. I wasn't sedated. I didn't take the sedative well. I was wide awake and completely conscious through it all. It was the most painful procedure of my life. It's very rare it happens like that. Would I do it again? In a heartbeat. I got to see everything they were doing. And I wouldn't change the whole process at all. And I know Jake wouldn't. He's a very positive person anyway. Has a great outlook on life. And yeah, when we discussed it the other night, I think it's the most special thing we've both been through. We've had a hard, challenging year because there's a lot of people close to myself and Jake that are expecting, and babies will be due in the next few months. But do you know what? I'm glad I've got as far as I have down the cycle now, and actually I can learn to sort of let go a little bit and actually enjoy watching my friends develop as first time mums, and share that experience with them. I'd love you guys to subscribe to the bottom. I will be doing regular videos throughout the rest of the cycle and continue onwards. And if any of you have any questions, let me know. And to all you guys that are watching who are beginning their cycle, good luck to you, and I've got everything crossed, and I will speak to you very soon. Appointments next week, so I'll probably have a week's break, and then I'll be back on YouTube to keep you updated. Speak to you soon. Take care, guys. Bye.